Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Okay. So, in our previous class, we have discussed about the how we can write the formula of the element to represent its atomic number and mass. How can we calculate the number of protons, number of neutrons, okay, and what is the mass number. Okay, all these things we saw in the last class. Today we'll be moving to a very important part of this chapter, that is starting from the discovery of atom, which is an indivisible particle by Dalton. Now we know that the atom is made up of electrons, protons and neutrons. Thomson has shown that electrons revolve around the nucleus. Bohr has told that though it is revolving around the nucleus in the fixed orbit, okay, it is not losing energy, and therefore this structure of the atom is stable. Okay, so we can consider something like this, in which the center of the atom, okay, it has the protons and neutrons, and around it there are these circular orbits. Okay, these circular orbits, the electrons are revolving around the nucleus. How the electrons are distributed, okay, whether there is only one electron in first orbit or more than one electron, how the electrons are actually there, how they are arranging themselves in these orbits, this particular question was addressed by the Bohr-Bury scheme. Okay, the distribution of electrons, page number 60. Okay, page number 60, the distribution of electrons in orbits. Okay, how it is explained? It is explained by the Bohr-Bury scheme. It is a scheme. So what they are explaining here, the distribution of the electrons in the different orbits, shells, energy levels, whatever the same synonyms you are using, is known as the electronic configuration. Okay, configuration means what is the configuration of your mobile, what is the configuration of your laptop. That is what these days people are more interested. Okay, what is the configuration? How is the arrangement? What are the different parts? So here when we say electronic configuration, that means how the electrons are distributed in the different shells. Okay, now what they have suggested, the Bohr-Bury scheme, first point they have told that how many maximum number of electrons can be accommodated in each shell. Okay, so here for example this first circle around the nucleus, okay, this is imaginary, we are thinking, we are imagining, okay, that there is one circular orbit. So in this first circular orbit, how many electrons can be accommodated? To do that one, we have to use the formula 2n square, where n is the orbit number. Okay, so we have discussed like the orbit number 1, 2, 3. Here 3 orbits are there. So either we can say orbit number 1, 2, 3, or we can say orbit K, L, M, like that we can say. Okay, that is how we'll mention the naming. So K is nothing but orbit number 1. So that means n is equal to 1. When n is equal to 1, then 2 into 1 whole to power of 2 will be equal to 1 square is again 1 only, therefore your answer will come 2. So that means in the first orbit, we will be able to accommodate how many? Only 2 electrons will be able to accommodate. The same thing we will see with the second orbit, n is equal to 2. Okay, so when n is equal to 2, 2 to the power of 2 is equal to 4, 4 into 2 is equal to 8, therefore in the second orbit we are going to get 8 electrons. In the third, how many are going to come? 18 electrons. 18 electrons maximum we can get in the third orbit, and so on. Okay, so we can do like that. Okay, 4 into 4,
32 electrons.
32 you will get
32 electrons.
Okay. 4 4s are 16, 16 into 2, 32 electrons you will get. So first point of this Bohr-Bury scheme, it has mentioned that how many maximum number of electrons we can have in each shell. In the second part of this scheme, what they are mentioning, that the shells will be filled up in a stepwise manner. The inner shells will be filled up first. So the inner orbits or shells, yeah.
Sir, how we can represent 32 electrons in an orbit?
We generally avoid making that kind of a diagram. Okay, making 32, we don't have like that in our syllabus. For you, up to atomic number 20, okay, that is a calcium, till calcium is sufficient. Okay, electronic configuration up to atomic number 20, that is the calcium, you need to practice, you need to be thorough till there in your syllabus. Now when we are going beyond 20 and so on, when these numbers become a lot, then it's not so easy to represent, so many dots and electrons around that one. So we avoid making that kind of diagrams. So the shells or orbits will be filled up in a stepwise manner, that is inner orbits will be filled up first. Okay, that is 2 electrons first inside, then only the next one. Here the first orbit we know will be filled up by 2 electrons, the second one filled up by 8 electrons, and next by 18 and 32, like this. But in the third point of this Bohr-Bury scheme, what they have mentioned is that the outermost shell cannot have more than 8 electrons. Now you see, first and second orbit, first orbit anyway 2 electrons, more than that cannot have, second one not more than 8 electrons, but the third orbit can have more than 8 electrons, that is 18 electrons. But if this 18 happens to be the outermost shell, or after this there is another shell, This total 18 will not be accommodated. 8 only will be accommodated. 8 electrons only will be accommodated. This is a part of the third rule or scheme of how the electrons are arranged. Have Bohr and Bury actually seen that how the electrons are there around the nucleus? Has anyone seen that?
No, sir.
No one has seen. No one has seen. We are able to see an atom at the most by the use of the scanning tunnel electron microscope. Electron microscope. Okay, you have studied about electron microscope. Okay, so this electron microscope, because it is using electron beam, small particles of electrons, therefore you can see a matter, a size that is larger than that. That is the whole atom you can see. But how can you see the arrangement of electrons itself? You need something that is much more smaller than the electron to be able to see the electron. So this thing no one has really seen, but this best explains the stability of an atom. It is the fundamental to explain the stability of atom. All the chemistry from now that you will be doing, this is extremely important. Okay, you can give 5 stars for this, whatever it may be. Okay, because you should be able to write the electronic configuration of any element from 1 to 20. That is in your syllabus. Because when you write the electronic configuration, even though in your life you may not have seen that element, you can tell what is the property of that element. Okay, that is the excellent thing about it. So we will be seeing further that exception is there in this one, that is the hydrogen and helium. Okay, this hydrogen and helium, they are not going to have 8, because what is the atomic number? Helium
2.
2. Okay, helium is a stable gas, yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Most
It is
stable.
group 18. We are putting in group 18, last one. So it is a stable one. The hydrogen tries to be like helium, to be stable like helium. Everyone wants to be stable. Okay, so we will see later in the periodic table that everyone want to be like the stable inert gas. Okay, to get that configuration. So we will see the one by one few electronic configurations. Okay, valence electrons, valence. Okay, valence and valency, there are the two terms. Valency, in your class 8 also you were introduced to this point of valency, and electronic configuration also you were introduced in class 8. Now let us see, just revise this one, that is, what is the valence shell? Valence shell is nothing but the outermost shell of an atom. So if we get back to this diagram, in this particular figure, how many electrons you are able to see in the valence shell?
1.
This one you are able to
2.
see? Yes, there is another fellow here. Okay, hiding behind, but it is also there in the third orbit. So here there are 2 electrons in the valence or valence, however you pronounce, valence shell. 2 electrons are there. So this valence shell is nothing but the outermost shell of the atom, and the valence electrons are the electrons that are present in the valence shell. The important part is, when we know that how many electrons are there, these valence electrons are there, we can predict the chemical properties. The chemical properties, they depend upon the valence electrons. In chemistry, who is participating in the chemical reaction?
Electrons.
Electrons are participating. So if you know the arrangement of the electrons, if you know how many valence electrons are there, you can predict the chemical properties. Now, from the atomic number 1 to 20, there is a table in page number 62. okay, where you are able to see that element, symbol, atomic number, mass number, number of neutrons, distribution of electrons in the different shells, valency, okay, and the property, whether it is a metal, non-metal, and all gas or whatever is given. Now let us try to write the electronic configuration. Very important. Lithium, what is the atomic number here?
3.
3. Okay, we are writing down, no? Down. Atomic number will write down. So lithium atomic number 3, electronic configuration, in the first orbit there will be maximum 2 electrons, remaining is only 1 electron, so this configuration will be 2 1. Similar way, in your book you try to write the rest 2 2 2 3. Okay, now you see sodium. Okay, after 5 you can go to 6, otherwise you see go to 6 2 4. Okay, nitrogen 2 5, oxygen 8, like this. Something you do, you use some tricks to remember what is the atomic number of few important elements. So here oxygen 8, so it will be 2 6. Neon 9 2 7. Okay, you add up 9 plus 2 7 is equal to 9, so totally 9 electrons are there. Okay, then
But neon is stable is 10. Its atomic number is 10, sir. 9 is chlorine.
is 10. Yes, you are correct. Yes, there is a typing
sir.
mistake here. Yes, you are correct. This should be 10. So this is coming to 2 8. 2 8. So when neon is coming to 2 8, okay, hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. Fluorine is missing here. Fluorine, neon. Okay, and then how do we write sodium for electronic configuration for sodium? Should we write 2 9?
281.
281.
Because it can complete
Yes.
one octet.
Maximum number of electrons.
Already
is 8.
octet is there, and then more than that cannot go, so 281. Good. So similarly you can write for this, and let us come to say the last one, that is a calcium 20. Calcium 20.
2882.
2 8 10. Should I write 10
Sir,
here?
No, sir, because outermost cell will have more than 8 electrons.
I cannot write 10, that is wrong. So I need to write here 8 only. So we'll write 8. So 2 8 10, 10 plus 8 18. After 18 2 more is required to make it to 20. Okay, so please I will suggest that all of you practice. It seems sometimes very simple, but we have been seeing over the years students make this mistake. Okay, so please write this electronic configuration and practice. Now let us see just this chlorine. Chlorine atomic number 17. Here in the mass number we have written 35 and 37. Whether the electronic configuration for chlorine 35 and chlorine 37 will be same or different?
Sir, same.
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 Yes, sir.
Why?
Because the number of
Sir, because
electrons
its
is not
atomic
going to
number is
change.
Sir,
same.
because the number of electrons is same only. The number of neutrons is varying.
Yes, sir. Because the mass depends. Okay, the change of the mass is coming by the protons or the neutrons, and here the protons are not changing. 17, it is a fixed atomic number. The number of neutrons are changing, so therefore this electronic configuration will not change. Number of electrons is remaining same. Now for example chlorine 17, how we will write? 2 8 10 and then write 7, becomes a 17. Okay, so in this way first you will write and practice the electronic configuration. and it should be like you should be so thorough with that one that you should be able to tell, you know, like looking at okay, neon anyway 28, okay, or sodium 281, but this you will get in periodic table. They are all, because chapters are interconnected. Okay, you will see this is more helpful in periodic table. Next we will see what is the valence electrons, that is if there are 1, 2 or 3 valence electrons, we are excluding hydrogen and helium, then what property they will have? They will have the metallic property, they will form cations, and they will be reducing agents. Now suddenly so many things we are crammed into this small thing. You see, valence electrons means we know that this last shell, the electrons is the valence electron. Just by looking at this electronic configuration, by knowing how many valence electrons are there, we are able to predict all these things. If a number of valence electron is 1, 2 or 3, it will be metal, it will form cations, it will behave as a reducing agent. It is excellent, no? And that if the valence electrons is 4, 5, 6 or 7, it is a non-metal, form anions and be an oxidizing agent. Okay, we will discuss all these things in more detail in the periodic table. Now we are coming in this particular chapter, much more interest to us is the valency. Till now we saw the valence electron, and now we are going to look at the valency. The octet theory of valency or electron theory of valency was proposed by Cosell and Lewis in 1916. So they found some observation, interesting observation, what the atoms of all elements except the inert gases, they will combine. Why? Because they have incomplete valence shells and they tend to attain a stable configuration. Who is having the most stable configuration of all the elements?
Inert gases.
Inert elements, yes, inert elements, noble gases, inert elements, group number 17. Okay, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, all these fellows. So these are inert gases. So the atoms of all elements except the inert gases, they will combine. That means they will do some reactions. Why? Because they have incomplete valence shells. And what they want to be? They want to be like these inert gases. They want to be stable. They want to get their stable electronic configuration. This is extremely important point. 1000 times in chemistry, the same fundamental you will apply again. Okay, so this you have to understand very carefully, that whatever element it may be other than the inert gases, they try to be like inert gas, because inert gas are the most stable, they have the octet configuration. The next one is how they will be trying to become this stable configuration. The number of electrons that are gained, lost or shared, 3 options are there. The electrons that are there in the valence electrons, these valence electrons, they may be gained or lost or they may be shared to attain this octet in their outermost shell. Okay, so this gives the combining capacity of the element, that is the valency. That means actually what valency is telling us? The combining capacity of the element. It is telling the combining capacity of the element. That means what? Valency is going to tell us about the reactivity, how reactive that element is, how stable that element is. Now for example, what is the valency of the inert gas?
Sir, 0.
Why?
Sir, because they have their octet.
They have the octet, okay, fine. So because they have their octet, what is going to happen?
Their combining power is 0.
They are not going to combine. They are not going to combine, they are not going to react. They are stable. Valency is going to talk about the combining capacity or the reactivity or the stability of that element. Now, if the number of valence electrons are 1, 2 or 3, then the valency will also be 1, 2 or 3. But if the number of valence electrons is 4, 5, 6 or 7, then the valency will be 4, 3, 2 and 1 respectively. What you will do? You will do 8 minus the valence electron. Why we are doing this one? We will understand in our higher classes. Okay, we will go more into orbital and all those kind of things, shells and subshells, those things we will understand. But here just you have to understand is that if you know the number of valence electrons, you can tell what is the valency for 1, 2, 3, same valency 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, it will be minus 8 minus that. That means this number 7 is there. Number of valence electrons are 7. To become stable octet, what it has to do?
Sir, it has to gain one electron.
To gain one electron to become 8. Okay, so if 7 valence electrons are there, to become 8, simple, it has to gain one electron. So that reaction is for what? 1 electron. That is why the valency here is 1. Okay, exception is hydrogen helium. They are going for the duplet configuration. Okay, that is helium with only 2 electrons in the valency, in the valence shell, will be stable. Okay, so far you have any doubt in this one you want to ask?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay,
No, sir.
now the chemical bond, because when this reaction is taking place, that is that element is trying to become stable. Okay. In chemistry I have told repeatedly that the purpose of all chemical reactions is only one, that is to gain the stability. Okay, to gain the stability, the chemical reaction will take place. So a chemical bond, when this chemical reaction is going to take place, a chemical bond will be formed. This chemical bond, how we are defining it? It is the force of attraction between two atoms that bind them together as a unit, that is called a molecule. Two or more atoms also may be there. Okay, but what is happening? There is an attraction between two or more atoms binding together to form a molecule. Now can you tell me the difference between atom and molecule based on stability?
An atom may or may not be stable, whereas a molecule is always stable.
Always stable, correct answer. A molecule will always be stable. Atom may or may not be stable. So when they are unstable, they will react and they will form the chemical bond and become one unit, that is called the molecule. The molecule is always stable. If it is not stable, we will not call it a molecule. We can call it some other name like ion, radical, something else. You can call it. But if it is stable, then only you will call it as a molecule. Okay. Next, coming to the another important concept, that is isotope. Isotope. Any given chemical element, Okay, for example, here carbon is there. You can observe carefully that I have written here three formulas of carbon: C612, C613 and C614. What is changing?
The mass number.
Mass number is changing, but atomic number remains same. The element is the same. So the atoms of the same element having the same atomic number, of course same element will have same atomic number, it cannot have different atomic number, but different mass number. Same atomic number, different mass number. Why this is happening? This is due to the difference in the number of neutrons. Okay, but isotopes, why we have to study about these isotopes? In nature there are the isotopes are present, like this carbon. One of these isotopes will be more abundant, that means present in the more amount, and the others may be present in very less amount. Now what is the atomic weight of carbon? Suppose that is the question. How you will tell? So if you go to your contents page of your textbook, okay, content, before that there is a relative atomic mass, one table is given. Hydrogen, helium, lithium, all 118 elements are there and their relative atomic mass is given there. Okay, you can refer to that page, and there you see carbon at relative atomic mass is given as 12.01. Relative atomic mass is 12.01. Where did I keep my mobile? So just, yes, we have time. So this 12.01 is the relative atomic mass. Do you think it is correct? How can we say? Now in our earlier chapters we discussed about the atomic mass, atomic weight, relative atomic mass. These things we discussed, no? Chapter 1. Atomic mass unit we discussed. Now here my question is, the mass of the relative atomic mass of any element, if we want to say, how can we say? Because in nature there are the different isotopes. Should I be partiality to one isotope? No. These things are not there in that much amount. Neglect it. We don't want to consider. This fellow is the majority. Let this one only. Okay. Whatever weight is there, that. Can we do that? It is not correct. What we have to do? We have to take the average of the mass of all the three isotopes. Then whatever we get, okay, that we will consider as the relative atomic mass. Okay. So here let us see one by one. The first example here. What is this element?
The hydrogen.
Hydrogen. Because how many protons are there? Only one proton, one electron. If this electron is not there, will it not be hydrogen element? If I remove this electron, will it still be hydrogen element or it will become different?
It will not be an hydrogen element.
It will not be hydrogen element. The why like that? The atomic number depends primarily on what? The number of proton or number of electron?
Number of
proton.
Number of proton. Atomic number, you have to see number of proton first, because electron, it may go here and there, do some reaction. Okay, it may become ion, but did the element change?
No, sir. Proton.
Element is not changing, no. It may become from atom, it may become molecule, it may become ion. Those things can take place. Radical, it can become anything, but the element is not changing. Okay, so the element, how we will identify? By the first we have to look at the number of protons. That is going to tell us the atomic number. The atomic number, we can tell which element it is. So here it is atomic number 1, hydrogen. The name here that is given is protium. In the second one it is given as deuterium. What is the difference? Here also there is one proton, but extra here came one neutron. So what it become? It become heavy. So we say it is deuterium, but number of electrons also same, one electron only, because number of proton equal to number of electron. Then come the next, tritium. Okay, so one proton and two neutrons, tritium. So in this way what is happening is, these three are the isotopes of hydrogen. Okay, this part is clear. We can also compare that with very common isotope, chlorine. When you look at the mass of chlorine, okay, you see the table. Okay, all of you, are you looking at the table? You look at the table. So you are interested in only 1 to 20. Don't concern too much about 118 elements. 1 to 20, that's all. So in that one, chlorine atomic number is 17. 35.45 is given. Okay, 35.45. What happens in nature is, both chlorine 35 and chlorine 37 are almost equally abundant, and therefore when we are giving the mass, then what we are doing, the average of this one is coming to something in between. Okay, it is coming to in between. Okay, that is the isotopes. Here the properties of isotopes is very important. They have similar chemical properties but different physical properties, such as density, boiling point, and so on. Why they have similar chemical properties, isotopes?
Because the electronic configuration are same.
Yes, because the chemical property depends upon the valence electrons. Okay, chemical properties depend on the valence electrons. The isotopes atomic number is same, electronic configuration will be same, valency, the valence electrons will be the same, but where they are differing, they are different with the physical properties, density, boiling point, and so on. The physical properties, they depend upon mass. They depend on mass, and mass is changing. That is why physical properties are changing. Higher mass of the isotope have higher boiling point. Okay, so when we are taking protium, deuterium, and tritium, which will have the higher boiling point?
Tritium.
Tritium. Have you ever heard about heavy water? So there is one thing called heavy water. So generally in the thermal power plants, okay, so in our neighborhood also, I think we have very large thermal power plant is there. Okay, so where we are burning coal, lot of heat energy is being produced, and we are using water. Water is going to convert into steam. Steam is going to turn the turbine. Okay, turbines will move and electricity will be produced. That is the how thermal power is getting, okay, being made. Now the water that is being used there, converting to steam and doing this exchange of heat, would you like to use regular water, or would you like to use the heavier isotope of water? Here D means deuterium.
Heavier isotope of water.
Why heavier one? The heavier isotope
Because
is it will have heavier
more
isotope.
efficiency to move the turbine.
No. It will have the higher boiling point. What do you want? Do you want a lower boiling point is more preferable, or higher boiling point is more preferable?
Higher boiling point.
Why? Suppose if you would have used a liquid that is already boiling at 50 degrees centigrade, okay, very soon it will boil, no? Very soonly it will get converted into steam. So why not use such a thing? You see, what happens is, when you are going for higher boiling point, that means it is absorbing more amount of heat, no? Lower boiling point means it is absorbing less amount of heat. To convert from the liquid form to the gas form. So the one that is absorbing more amount of heat to convert from the liquid to gas is having the higher boiling point, and such a gas, okay, because it has more energy, and there is this turbine is almost like, there also like a automobile, you have a piston mechanism, no, where you put this kerosene, petrol, something, and you ignite it. As it gas expands and push the piston. Same thing here. It should have more energy, so you should go for a higher boiling point. Right, we'll see couple of more points and we'll wind up. We have time. Okay. Radioactivity is the spontaneous decay of unstable radioisotopes like carbon-14 and tritium. So the question is, nature is having different isotopes, but some isotopes are more abundant, but some isotopes are rare. Why some isotopes are rare? They are rare because they are less stable. They are unstable. They will decay. And when they decay, that is what you say radioactive decay. Radioactivity is taking place. Okay. So radioactivity will take place due to electrons or due to what? Radioactivity is taking place due to the neutrons. Okay, these neutrons are making it more heavy, no? This is only one proton, deuterium one neutron become extra, tritium two more neutrons came. So like this, the neutrons, they are making the atom heavy. So this one, when it becomes super heavy, that atom, it becomes unstable, and when it becomes unstable, then it will break down into another isotopes, new element will be formed, that is the radioactivity. Okay, so some of the uses of the radioisotopes include the cobalt 60 in the radiotherapy or radiation therapy for cancer. Okay, you may have heard that. Okay, that sometimes for cancer treatment they use the radiation. So the radiation is from cobalt 60. So India has very good resource for cobalt 60. Then is carbon 14 for geological age determination. Carbon 14, if you compare with carbon 12, this is rare, unstable, heavy isotope, no? Heavy isotope, less stable.